All right. Should I just go ahead?
I can give a quick intro, I suppose.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to just deprive you of an intro, mate, you know. Basically, yeah, I mean, not much to intro. Thank you for joining Berlin Power BI user group. I'm very happy that we're going to be doing a session today on the Power BI Measure Killer because it's something that I've known about for a while, but admittedly, no offense, Gregor, only started using about 2 months ago, but I absolutely love it. I'm changing job in 1 month, and basically it has saved me so much time to look it through all my measures that are no longer relevant, making my documentation faster, but I won't say too much about it because Gregor's going to show me many things. And yeah, Gregor, thanks for joining, and do your thing, mate. Show us what you got.
Bye. Yeah. Thanks for having me, and also Klaus Volt, who is my colleague. He's pulling some heavy weight on Measure Killer. He's our main developer, actually. So kudos go to him as well. Maybe Klaus, you can say something quickly.
Hi guys, thank you for having us, and I'm glad that the tool is helping you guys. Yes.
So so Measure Killer came into the world sometime last year, but we actually started releasing it in September, October, something like that. It was born out of necessity, actually, and we never thought that it will see more than our testing environment and solving one problem. But yeah, we've got some really good feedback from the community. I'm also really happy that people are using it, are giving us feedback, because that's the only way this tool can get better. Because our test reports are only go so far, I would say. Yeah, so a little bit about myself and my company. So we're a small company of 5 developers located in Switzerland. I'm originally from Austria. And so we mostly have our projects in the German area, Germanic DACH area, as you call it, right? And we're doing Power BI development and some consulting, and lately we're also investing a lot of time and resources into Measure Killer because yeah, it has grown quite a lot the last few months, especially. Yeah, so maybe I'm just gonna share my screen, and because I want to show everyone right from the beginning, I'm just gonna go to the website here. It's measurekiller.com, and you can find everything about the tool here. You can download it from here. We actually just released a new version today, and right after the release, we realized there's a bug. So, like always, so if you install the new version, please uninstall the old one before, because if you just override it, it's not gonna work. That's something we realized too late, unfortunately. But yeah, those things, almost, I think every second release we have something that we just realize it right after we release it. So Measure Killer is an external tool for Microsoft's Power BI desktop, as it's called officially. What can you do with this thing? Why would you need it, right? So I think the main use cases are to identify and remove unused measures and columns, as we say here. And then in the ultimate version, whatever we're actually developing more and more now, is also to clean up your whole Power BI tenant. So we're looking at shared data sets. We want to really make sure those golden data sets can get maybe smaller over time and not just bigger day by day with incremental refresh and all kinds of gimmicks. So that's something that we're really looking at now. And also, so generally the tool is free to use, but for this online analysis, actually there is a paid upgrade. And if somebody is interested, you can also reach out or check it out on the website. Yeah, but one other feature of Measure Killer is an analysis that you get. Basically, it's a full documentation of your report and model. And we will take a look at this when I demo it. yeah, by the way, since we don't really have a chat here, if you have any questions, please just raise your hand, because actually I have two computers, I can see it. And maybe I'll make a little break sometimes to check. So please just raise your hand and we can dive into it. So maybe what's also good to understand is how does Measure Killer differentiate itself from other tools? So there are a lot of tools that actually analyze the data set, the model, right? But the special thing I would say that Measure Killer is doing is it's also reading the report. So it's taking a look at which artifacts you're using, in which visuals, on which pages. You put a filter in the filter tab in Power BI, we will know which column you put in there. So that's, I think, something to remember. Yeah. And we also have a whole documentation here. We have compatibility with features in Power BI and around Power BI, what it works with and what it doesn't work with. Especially, it's also really important to know the limitations, right? So we cannot analyze dashboards. We don't know anything about what people do in analyze in Excel. So if somebody is doing an analyze in Excel on a data set in the service, we have no idea what's going on there. It's just good to know that mostly it's about Power BI reports. And actually currently we're trying to figure out paginated reports as well. So that might come soon, but we haven't really done it yet. So there's still a couple of weeks at least of work in there. We cannot do anything with analysis services, unfortunately, unless you import data from Power BI dataset. Yeah, so there are some limitations, and make sure you check this if you have any questions or something is not working. There's also something to the logic of Measure Killer that is just out of scope right now. One good example, I think, is if you're doing a count rows, since it's a table expression, it doesn't reference any column or measure. So that way, we don't really take that into account. So if you had a table that all of the columns in that table are unused, we would say remove them, even though you might have a count rows on the table. It's a very peculiar scenario, I would say, but it's possible. So those are just some things that do not work. But let's open up the tool and let's see how it works, and to get a better understanding of, because some people maybe cannot just imagine when they hear me talking here. Just yeah. So Measure Killer has 3 different modules. The first one is when I want to analyze a single report and data set. So just everything is in one Power BI file, right? And it's locally on my computer. So that's the easiest use case, I would say. Then you can analyze a shared data set. So one data set and multiple report files. Those have a live connection to the data set, but you have all the files locally on your machine. So you have to download the dataset and all the thin files and then put it into Measure Killer. And then the ultimate version is this online analysis where you just select the dataset and it will search through the whole tenant to find all connected reports. And you can keep everything in the Power BI service. So that's the ultimate version. That's actually the paid upgrade, this third one right here. So I prepared this sales report. This is basically the example for a single report and dataset. You can see here I have some tables imported into my model. I have some measures. We built like 2 pages here, some fancy showcase report, whatever. And now I want to analyze this using Measure Killer. I can either do this from within the external tools. So I can run Measure Killer from inside here. And then actually that's the most easy way, I would say. And then you just select single report and dataset. And what happens now is Measure Killer automatically selects the port. That's basically what we need to get the information of the model. And then something else you need to do is you need to select the report file, the PBX file. Yeah, and we need to do those two things because from here we're getting the report, meaning which visuals you're using, where you're using them, things like this. And from the port, we get the information regarding the model. Yeah. And now when you go to run, Measure Killer will do its magic. And you can see it's reading through the artifacts. It took only 1.5 seconds. And we have 49 artifacts in this model. What does that mean? It means measures and columns. So 49 measures and columns combined, not much. And now we get this output here, which is a small table where you can see for every row we have one artifact, so either a measure or a column. You can see which table it belongs to, if it is used or not, right? The red things, those are the unused, so I want to highlight those. And if they're used though, you can click on this little plus and you will figure out, you can see where those artifacts are used, in which type of visual, on which page, things like this. Even if it's in a relationship, active or inactive relationship, it doesn't matter. We can figure that out. So here you get this overview, and you can also search through here. Some people have thousands and thousands of artifacts in their models, then they need some other functionality. We have this button here so we also have this new button here called expand, so we can just expand all the to the next level, basically some kind of drill down like in Power BI, right? And then we have this button unused, where you just filter out all the used stuff and you just have the unused. And of course, then what you can do is you can sort, and maybe you can find some really expensive, some really heavy columns in your model that are not even used. So yeah, and then we also have some measures. And then what you can do is we can get down to the killing, right? So you can kill measures and kill columns. And you have the option to kill all unused measures, or you can just select the measures to kill, and that's how it works. So for example, I can just select those two, and I can say kill selected, and what happens is it's just double checking if I really want to remove those two measures, and we can just see what's happening while I'm doing this in Power BI. So this is similar to if you're executing a C# script in Tabular Editor. I'm just going to say yes, and you can see it's running a process, and boom, they're gone. And then it's doing its analysis again, just to give us an updated version. And now we can see that only one of those three measures is left. And also you can see here that it's gone. And since some people might have some accidents from killing measures, we introduced restore measures. And this is still a new functionality. And you can see here, it's giving me basically what I just did. And I can now put those measures back and just restore them back to my model. And I just have to do this one by one. And then you can see they're coming back here. But this is still something new. Yeah, we haven't really gotten much feedback about this yet. So, but it works, including the comments that you put. So this is the first functionality, I would say, to remove unused measures. Are there any questions so far? Maybe in the chat.
I had one question. Like I haven't installed this, but there was two different, like, so if you scroll down, there's the admin one and the portal one. I maybe have been a bit lazy, so I didn't read all of it, but
yes,
could you elaborate on which one I should pick?
So there is so I just put this here on the website before because like I said, we had this little bug with this version. You cannot override it. Yes, there is two versions. So there's an admin version and a portable version. It's a different installer. What is the difference? Well, the admin version, you need admin rights on your computer, and the portable version, you don't need admin rights on your computer. It is exactly the same software. The only difference is you cannot launch the portable version from within the external tools. To put Measure Killer into the external tools ribbon, that's the only reason why we need admin rights on your computer, or why you need admin rights on your computer. That's just how it works, and so that's the only difference. And yeah, that's just that's what it is.
Thank you.
So yeah, back to our report. We also have a documentation feature, which is very powerful, I think, and a lot of people really like this. So if I go to the save results, I can just save this as an Excel file. You can see it's giving me the report name and a date timestamp, and I go to save. And now I can just open this thing up here. I'm just gonna make it a little bigger. Here we can see all our artifacts again, nicely organized. I can see if it's used or not. And also, look, I can see the DAX expression, right? I mean, this is really cool. I can see all my measures, what the expressions are, and I can see more detail here. I can see exactly where it's used, which report. If I have multiple reports, also this works, of course. It's giving me a really good documentation of my report and model. And if we didn't have this restore measures, at least you could also do it yourself, right? Just copy paste the DAX expression. Yeah, so that's what happened before. Carl has a question.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, like, so could you also from this get the description on the measure?
The description from, well, actually, Klaus, that's a question for you. I don't know.
Oh, I'm not sure if you can get the description actually, but
Yeah.
I have to take a look actually.
That would be like super good, I would say.
But that's a very good feedback.
What do you use the description for?
I mean, like,
I usually copy paste the DAX code, right? Yeah. So for that maybe, but
no, I use it for like some form of documentation for like non-DAX professionals, so to say. So like managers and middle managers and CEOs, CFOs and stuff that should not or it will just be too complicated if there is like a formula language that they will never learn. Okay. So
yeah, it's a good point. I think the description is something we didn't really take into account yet, but I think it's a really good point. We should have that in here, yeah, for sure. Maybe we can figure something out.
But still, this is super amazing still, like, so.
Thanks. And here, so I don't know if you saw this, but we have two different reports. So we have this row by row. This is the one I did now, and you can see that we have duplicates for every artifact. And that just means it's used 6 times. So for everywhere it's used, like now we have distinct rows, kind of. So everywhere it's used, we get 1 row. So here, I don't know, we have, this is referenced here, and then the next row means the same measure is referenced here. And the other report, this clustered one, is basically, it just gives us 1 row for 1 artifact. And then where it's used is kind of in 1 column altogether. It's just the way it's organized, but there is not much difference otherwise. Yeah. And maybe the most important function, and in my opinion, the coolest function, is to remove columns which is a very safe way, I think, to remove columns. Maybe let's take a look at what we have first. So in our fact table, we have a column order number that is not used anywhere, and it has more than 1 megabyte. It's not much, right? But could be 100 megabytes in a bigger model. So I want to remove this now. How do I do that? Well, we help you a little bit in that. So you can select, this is now referring to Power Query. If you want to do a remove columns or remove other columns, I'm just gonna go for the remove other columns. And now in this drop down, you get 4 tables, because those are all the tables that contain unused columns, and they're sorted by the total size you can save. So the fact table comes first because that's where I can save more than 1 megabyte. And then I can choose which columns I want to remove. I can click on apply. I'm going to copy this code. And now I'm going to go to Power Query. And you can see here, I'm just going to paste this code in here. And what happens is, well, since I did a remove other columns, it's referencing all the columns that should stay in the model. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have in total 7. So that's minus the 2. And it's not doing anything. It's just adding a new step at the end where order number and which one is the other one? I don't know. And one more column is removed. Yeah. And it's I think a very safe way to remove columns, because whatever happens, you can always remove this step if you want, and then just go back to where you were before. Now we can just apply this, and then basically our model is a little smaller. Yeah, so those are the main features. We also have a little plot here, which is, I always say it's really ugly compared to any Power BI visual. It's, yeah, but I think it does the job. It shows you the proportions of of used and unused, but yeah, that's about it. Yeah, so this is the normal analysis, I would say, of a single report or dataset. But now I want to show you the ultimate version, and there maybe we have to take a look at Power BI first. So imagine I have a shared dataset with a couple of reports connected to it, right? In this case, we have a weather dataset, and this weather dataset is pulling its data from some web API, and we get some cool reports. Maybe we can take a look at one of those reports. It just gives us a world temperature, and we can see in Berlin, well, we had a maximum of 17 degrees today. Guess not bad, but it's getting cold tomorrow. Yeah, so anyway, so we have a couple of reports built on top of our data set. Where is it? Here. And we can see this here. And of course, it's not that simple always. We also have, and that's what I see in the impact analysis here, I can also see that people built reports in a different workspace on top of this data set as well, right? In a bigger organizations, maybe you have a big shared data set, people will build all kinds of reports on top of that data set. So now we want to analyze this data set and clean it up using Measure Killer. And for that, actually, I need to sign into my Microsoft account because we're doing some Power BI REST API calls. And now this is basically this online analysis. And since I authenticated, now I can see all my premium workspaces where I have access to with my account, right, in my tenant. And I'm gonna go to MK, which is the workspace that we're looking at here. So I'm gonna select the MK workspace. And now I'm getting all the data sets inside that workspace. And since we want to analyze the weather data set, I'm gonna select that. I click on connect, because now we need to do an XMLA connection. So this is all Power BI Premium features only. You cannot do that in a Pro workspace. But yeah, that's just how it is. So what happens now is I get another list of workspaces in my tenant where I want to search for connected reports. And maybe I have some workspaces I want to take out. I don't want to search my dev workspaces and my test. I'm just going to take out some stuff here, but I want to keep my other workspaces in there. And I can now go to reports, meaning get reports. And now Measure Killer is searching through those workspaces for reports connected to that data set. And you can see it found exactly those that are also here. So we have a couple of reports here in the MK workspace, but also in my PPU test workspace. We have something, including a report that cannot be downloaded. You guys know that there are some limitations, right? Some reports cannot be downloaded from the Power BI service. And that's also the limitations that we run into. So if it cannot be downloaded, then also we cannot analyze it. Yeah. But I'm just gonna take out maybe one or two here just to show you how this works. But the other ones, I just want to go ahead and run Measure Killer here. And it's just double checking. You can see that we're always talking about API calls here. So in some organizations, this might be a topic that everybody, and we know that there's some kind of limit that Microsoft imposes on us in terms of API calls. But it depends, I guess, and it's not really clear what the limit is. So just be mindful with this. And yeah, if you have like 1,000 workspaces here, maybe you want to only choose the ones you know. Otherwise, maybe you'll hit some limits. That's why we want to be very transparent here and always saying, okay, we're doing now 7 API calls, means total of 28, stuff like this. Yeah. So now, since I went ahead, it's getting the report layout of all those workspaces, and the ones that cannot be downloaded, as you can see here, boom, I'm getting an error. And this is like brand new now in the new version. We can skip this one. So we'll not get a fatal error, but we can just skip this and take it out of the analysis. And the other reports should be able to download. And you can see here, it already did this. And then it automatically switches to the next window. And it's just going to quickly run through our 74 artifacts. And we get same table here, but you can now see that some artifacts here don't belong to the weather dataset, but they actually belong to the thin reports. So those are report level measures that somebody built on top of our dataset, and we can still see them here, even though maybe we're more interested in what is in the dataset, right, and what we can optimize there. But we still get an analysis also of the report level measures as well. Yeah. Yeah. So this is basically it. And here, of course, I can also do the Excel output. It will just give me more. What I cannot do here is I cannot remove measures directly. Why? Because the dataset is not open on my computer right now, and we don't want to do any XMLA write connection. So we're only doing XMLA read. And generally, if you have some concerns regarding privacy and these things, Measure Killer doesn't read any actual data. It only reads the metadata. So we will see the name of the column. We will also see the DAX expressions, but we will never see what's inside the column, because that's not what we're analyzing. And that's also why the speed of Measure Killer depends on the number of artifacts you have in your model, but not the size of the data. So you could have a model with 10 gigabytes and 20 artifacts, 20 columns, and this will run faster than a report with 200 measures, and it just has 500 kilobytes. Yeah, so that's just important to remember. Yeah, so yeah, basically this is the ultimate version, I would say, where you can have all your reports and data sets in the cloud. You can leave them there. You don't need to download anything. And you can still run your analysis. And of course, we cannot kill the measures directly, but we can generate a C# script. So you will at least get this, and you can run this through Tabular Editor or something to remove those measures through an XMLA write command. And of course, you still get the M code, yeah. So you will still know which what to do, and you can change your code in that sense. Yeah. Do we have any questions?
No questions in. So I'm just looking at the meetup chat. No questions.
Yeah, I'm kind of keep track of the meetup chat, and it seems.
I'm
I think it was the
refreshing.
Seems okay.
Hope I was not too bad.
No, not at all. It's,
Could I ask one maybe? Sorry.
Sure.
So like to summarize this, that basically the first demo that you showed, the report was built within the same Power BI file.
Yes.
And that is the free version.
Yes.
And the second demo that you had, it was basically like
This one.
best practice, where you have like one data model and then you branch out with different reports, and then you needed to use the paid version basically.
Yeah, and the one in the middle actually I haven't shown yet, and we could take a look at now since we still have some time, but maybe we can hear your question first.
And no, it was that just like me understanding these two
Yeah.
different paths of the demo, so to say.
So the difference between the free version has those two things, and let me just quickly show what is also free for everyone is basically the shared dataset analysis, but you need to get all the files yourself, right? So you can do the same analysis, but you will need to 1 second, I just need to, because I started it I started it from within the one file, and that's why it's yeah. So if you want to analyze a shared data set, but you don't want to pay, and I don't know, whatever reason you want to have, you have your files offline. I can have this weather data set here, and I downloaded some of my reports, my live connection reports, yeah. And what I need to do then is I just need to open, I just need to open the data set. So this is all the second mode that is still has the same functionality. So now here I just have the data set, right? But I need to have it open on my machine. And now I can select the local host. So I will connect basically to this locally. And now what I need to do is I need to select the dataset file itself. Yeah. And now I need to select the thin files, the reports. And I can do this using a whole folder. So I can select everything in that folder, or I can do it one by one. Doesn't matter. Yeah. But you can see here that now the first thing is the dataset, and then I have those three live connection or thin reports, however you want to call it, and I can go to submit. And it's just double checking whether dataset is my dataset. Yes. And now I can go to run, and now it's doing the same analysis that we saw that it did in the service, just here locally. And also the benefit is I can kill measures directly from here because I have the file open, right? And we don't need to do anything in XMLA or whatever. And you can see here also it identified those report level measures, all those things. It's the same analysis. It's just that we thought that, okay, especially bigger companies, they want to have dedicated support and they will pay for it. That's why we built basically this third mode. And also for them, maybe they have a huge tenant where they automatically want to search for connected reports. And that's basically the differentiation. Yeah. But it's the same functionality. You can also create an output. Yeah. In terms of removing stuff, it's actually, this is the better one, right? But you still have to find the connected reports yourself or manually download them. It's just some manual tasks involved.
Very nice. But we are blind with people that we have let in with the Power BI or like the analyzer in Excel, unfortunately.
You mean analyzing Excel?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to imagine that how do we know that somebody is querying the data set? How do you even find out somebody is doing this, right? I mean, I don't know if there's any API call for that. Maybe you need to do some monitoring. It's really tricky.
Yeah.
The same thing that we don't know is if somebody is building a report here locally on a Power BI data set and just saves it on his machine. We have no idea, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So we just don't know about those things. Yeah. Like I said, we're trying to expand this to paginated reports because people are still using those, unfortunately. And they live in the Power BI service as well. So we thought, hey, maybe that's an easy catch. We can include those. So that will probably come out sometime in May. But otherwise, yeah, it's Power BI reports only. Okay, I think that's it basically.
It's very cool. I have to say, I'm begeisterd, very impressed. It's something that I've come to love, as I said, in the past few weeks. One of the things I love most, other than what I've learned today, which was a lot, by the way, I had no idea about the documentation side, and I'm going to immediately use that everywhere just to save myself some time. What I really liked about it was the feature that you mentioned where it shows you precisely where a measure is being used. Because what I found was when I was first starting to use it, that it would show me where, basically it would show me measures that weren't being used, of course, as it does. I deleted them. And then that left me with some measures. And I was looking at them and I was thinking, I'm pretty sure those measures shouldn't be used because, calculations change, requirements change. And I was like, why is that measure still being used? And because I could see where it was being used, what that allowed me to do was to do like a deep dive in my own report and to see why it was still being used. For example, one of my least favorite things about Power BI is what I'll do sometimes, because I'm quite a lazy person, is I'll just copy and paste a visual and just switch out the metrics inside it. But as you know, when you do that in the filter pane, you'll still see the old measures remaining there, and that's where they were being used. So they were still being referenced somewhere.
Yes.
And that allowed me to go and actually clean up my own report and get rid of the stuff that literally shouldn't be there. So for me, it was a way of actually cleaning my own reports that way as well, to actually see where does something exist in my report where it shouldn't exist. So it was to actually take it through that process, I found, I've got to say, very, very helpful.
Nice.
So yeah,
I appreciate that you're actually doing this, cleaning up your own report. Mostly we clean up reports from other people, right?
That is very true. Well, like I say, it's inspired only by the fact that I'm changing jobs in 1 month. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't be happening. I had a very nice colleague who was taking over my report, and she was looking at it and she was saying, okay, these measures are all up to date, is all correct, and in a very nice way, saying, can you please go through and just make it a little bit easier for the transition? And I was like, you know what, I'll have to do that on literally every single report I've built over the past 3 years. So that's pretty much my process now. Yeah. But
yeah.
On top, sorry, please.
No, I just wanted to say that yeah, this documentation is good, and we also put in some stuff here that we were not really sure what to do with it yet. And something I came across recently. So maybe also something just to mention is we only know the type of visual you're using your artifact on. Like, for example, if it's a card visual or map visual, we don't know, we don't have the name of the visual, right? The title, we don't have that. So there's still, you still have to make sure you got the right visual. But something that we have and that we didn't really know what to do with it yet is the visual ID. And I saw something the other day that, or actually a couple of weeks ago, that I think in Power Automate, you can do something with those visual IDs. You can like refresh certain visuals. I think Chris Webb also, he wrote something about this. Probably. And he had a whole blog post about getting the visual IDs, which was a huge process. And then, yeah, but so we have them here. So if you have there's some very specific use cases, and I think it's especially in Power Automate, you can do something with those visual IDs. I have never done that yet, but I heard that there's something out there. So, yeah,
that's good to know. One thing that you didn't show, which I really like, and this is certainly a Kleinigkeiten, one of these small things. When you click on delete all measures or delete all unused measures, you have your little text box thing come up, you know, like, and it's the first line says, say Auf Wiedersehen to all your unused measures. That is a fantastic, yeah. And I love that. Exactly. Say Auf Wiedersehen to your unused measures. I love that.
Yeah.
If you had the option also to change that message to things such as, say, Yippee Schweinebacker to all unused measures, this is these fantastic little bits and pieces.
That's what makes it fun, right?
Exactly. No, that's what. But this is the thing. What I really appreciated from the tool was the fact that, and I say this, I hope you know, with all due respect, that the things that it helped me with weren't overly complex things, but massively time-saving things, you know, like to go through a report, really, if you think about it, to go through a report and analyze manually which measures aren't being used is a nightmare task.
And you want to jump out of the window after 1 hour.
Absolutely, absolutely. Or at least just say, you know what, I'm calling in sick for the next month, and you can do it. But really, this is the things that you really appreciate when you realize that it's something that does a job that isn't overly complex, but does it fast and efficiently and does it really, really well. This is what I love about this tool. So it's really well. I'm not saying it because you're sitting in front of me. I'm not, but I've said it to my colleagues as well, that it's anyone who sees this or is just attempted to have a look at it, it will save you a lot of time and also help you learn a lot about your reports. So thank you. And also I apologize to your colleague who I left out in my initial introduction. I really didn't know they were also a member of your team, so there was no disrespect meant by that. I do apologize.
No, that was my fault. Yeah, Klaus, he joins most meetups, but yeah, he's the guy who will tell you what is possible and what is not, and I'm just a presenter.
Yeah, he's the guy that you thought when you have any awkward questions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not much of a talker.
I did like the idea that someone said about bringing in the description of the measures, by the way. That would be, for the documentation perspective, that is actually a really strong idea. It would really finally, because people have started to automate that as well using ChatGPT to bring in the measure description automatically. So to include that in the documentation would be a huge step.
Yeah, what I really
think also, one more thing. I didn't really get to see all of the columns that you had, but you can create these folder structures. That metadata would also be super helpful to have from a documentation perspective.
The display folder of the measure.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, that.
Maybe I'm asking for something obvious that is super hard to get, but usually, you can also always wish when you have the entire R&D department in front of you. You know.
Yeah, usually our rule is whatever you can do in the UI, we can also get. Yeah. That's the rule. But this description, I think, is really important, and thank you for suggesting that, because I also really like about when you build a shared data set, right? If you then connect live to the model, you have no idea anymore about the DAX expression, what exactly this KPI represents. And then if you put stuff in the description, at least you know more. And I usually put the DAX expression there, but for the business users, that's not helpful.
But like I also like if I were like I work with a few different companies, but like what I would dream to have in like this kind of tool is that, let's say you were able to export this, and then you could basically set the description in a Excel file or in like a CSV, and you do like some summary of the formulas, and then you get the description per measure, and then you can also set all of the folder structure, and then you can upload that and like do a mass update on the entire structure of your, like how the measures are updated, or like this measure should be put in this folder, or this measure should be put in this folder with this description. Imagine if you have I don't know if I have a model that is maybe between 1,000 measures, so I really need to kill some measures. But like, imagine if all of them were utilized correctly, and you have like this massive documentation process. I think that like if you were able to like also offer some form of mass update right back within this tool, like an Excel upload, that would be, I would pay a lot of money for that. Because
you mean that
maybe
you
super hard.
Manipulate, you can change stuff in your Excel and then it will write back to your model?
Yes, exactly. Or like this metadata, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. There's so many things we could do. We just like, we have a huge list of ideas and we prioritize but you know, every presentation, every user group meetup gives us some new ideas, and I think the one with the description is a really good one, and I think we'll put that in one of the next releases for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, Carl, you should maybe take a look at the new TMDL description of Timdel, because there is Matthias Tierbach already has shown how to make some metadata about measures with his Power BI tools, which is actually not possible to manipulate so easily in Power BI desktop. This is quite cool. I think there will be more and more stuff there.
True.
Do you have any URL links to this?
Yes, I have a live talk with Matthias. Okay, here's no chat, but if you're on LinkedIn, I can add you there, and then I'll send you. Maybe there's the video is quite when it was just announced. Maybe there are even more better videos, but yeah, let's stay connected, and I will send you something. I just found you. I will send you the stuff after the talk.
Nice, thank you.
But assessing about the measure killer, I'm with Ben. It's a very clear purpose, clear value, and for me, the first time I used it, it was a live session actually. I never used it before, and it was so easy to use because it's just so clear. Couldn't imagine doing this with DAX Studio or Tabular Editor because they are big tools, and this is one small tool with very good and clear focus.
Nice to meet you, by the way, Arthur. I think we've seen each other
nice to meet you, and sorry for being
online
late
and everywhere, but finally, at least digitally.
Cool. Are there any more questions from anyone in the chat, in the group? Like I say, also write them in the sessionized the meetup chat if you can, because I again failed with my chat in Teams. Any questions, just shout about it now and we can go over them. Otherwise we can
maybe. I mean, what I would always like to hear is what your guys are using it for, if you found any bugs, and what you want us to focus on developing.
One thing I will say, actually, I think I briefly mentioned, or you mentioned it to me actually, Gregor, in LinkedIn when we're chatting. I have had a few instances where I had to check for measures a few times. So I would run it once, I would delete them. Great. I'd run it again, pick up some more.
Yeah, because it was used in because it was used in another measure, but this measure was unused, and sometimes I had to run it 4 times to kill all the unused measures because of these dependencies between the measures. But I don't think it's a bug, because imagine if you have like a real huge iteration, you can use a measure in 100 other measures, and then how deep should the recursion go?
Okay.
It only does one, like when you analyze it, it's gonna look at what you use in the report or in the model. And then imagine you delete one measure, right? But maybe that one measure was referenced in another measure and only there. Then first, the second measure, it's used, right? Because it's used in some measure. But once you then delete the first measure, suddenly the other one is not used anymore because it was used only in that one measure. And then
maybe I'm being very stupid here, so please correct me.
No,
if I have a measure that I've referenced, if I delete that measure, would that other measure not then be broken? Because I've referenced the measure, but the measure that I've used doesn't exist, so would it not break the measure rather than?
No, you firstly you delete the final measure.
Of course, I'm working in the wrong direction. I
have like a measure, it's a difference, and the part of it is the sum in previous year, and first you delete the difference because you don't use it, and then you notice, oh, previous year is not used because I don't have the I came along this, but I don't know any way to make it better, because otherwise you have to do lots of checks and
No, this is really like in almost every model you need to have multiple runs. The first run will eliminate stuff, but the second run will suddenly show other stuff that, oh wow, this column. I mean, it could be a huge column and you just figure it out after the 4th or 5th run if you have all those crazy dependencies. It's really possible. We actually thought about doing everything at once and like letting it run, but then it just took a lot of time.
I mean, to be honest, I did it. It's not something that particularly bothered me, and the reason it didn't bother me is because I was kind of happy that the tool was more like erring on the side of caution. I'd rather it didn't delete enough rather than deleted everything, and then I was panicked. I'd rather under delete than over delete. And it really was only like 6 measures, so not a big deal. But I was just trying to understand where that was coming from. But the explanation makes sense. And I'm happy that this was recorded so people could see me try to work it out and fail massively the first time. But I'm there now.
No, look, I also didn't understand the first time. It's complete, like it's so hard to imagine this, right? This is so specific. And I'm telling you, when I remove those columns, then something else will pop up. It's just it would be a surprise if you only need one run. Usually, it's really like this. I have this Corona report, and I think it took me 5 or 6 runs until I got rid of everything, and it took really some time. And this is still one of the tiresome things, I would say. But like you said, you have more control. You can also see if something breaks. You have to still invest some time. Sorry.
I had to invest about 5 minutes of using my brain rather than a day and a half, so I think I was okay with that, No, it's just something that I realized. And what happened was I was actually showing a couple of colleagues, and before I did, of course, I was doing some preparation and I noticed it. But no, like as I say, it's certainly not a complaint, just something I've noticed, because the it's better it does it that way than kind of takes it a step too far. And you kind of then, it's certainly when you're using it for the first time, you might, you know, lose trust in the tool because it's over deleted. And when I think when you're using something that deletes a lot of stuff that you've built, it's the first couple of times it's kind of like a bit scary, you know.
And we actually built it so that it rather leaves stuff in that we're not sure, rather than deleting stuff that is, because that's the worst case, right? I mean, that's like, if we do this, you will never use it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but now with the to recover the measures, I think that's because deleting the measure is the riskiest part, right? It's happening at one click. If you didn't do like a backup, if you didn't do an Excel output, then until now, or until a couple of weeks ago, you would have to, I don't know, figure it out somehow. But now you can at least recover them, which is already really good, I think.
Absolutely. Given that versioning is still isn't the strength of Power BI, it's always good to have that backup.
Exactly.
That will change, I suppose. But yeah, as of the current status, it's always nice to have that safety net for sure. I haven't actually tried the measure backup thing yet, measure restore yet. I should think so. I'm looking forward to trying that.
I think it came out 2 weeks ago. So yeah.
Okay. I'm a bit slow in that case. Fair enough. So.
But yeah, so actually recently we're getting a lot of interest from consulting companies, because I guess they figured out that they can kind of sell this to their clients, optimize their models, right? So yeah, if somebody is interested, we can also give you guys a free trial license for sure, because there's no harm in that. So if you ever want to test the online mode, just send us an email, and yeah, no problem. Cool.
Fantastic. One more shout out for questions. See if anyone's thought of anything in the past 5 minutes. If not, we can call it a day, no? Then, Gregor, thank you so much. That was awesome. I've got to say, I was very much looking forward to that one, and it has more than lived up to my expectations. I'll be looking forward to trying out some of that documentation that you've shown in this in the meeting. And this video will go up on YouTube, so people can watch it on the playback. And yeah, everyone who was in the joined the meeting, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for the very helpful questions and suggestions for the updates of the forthcoming or the upcoming updates of whatever of the tool. So yeah, everyone, thank you. That was really good. And
yeah,
goodbye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice day.
Thanks for hosting.
Months.
See you guys. Bye-bye.